everyone, how are you? Happy Friday. It's me, Christina Elisa Brown, and this is In One Piece, People in Politics. I am thankful that you are here, and I am thankful to be here. Please like and share the stream. Donate and sponsor as well if you can. You can sponsor or donate at In One Piece at Cash App, Venmo, or Patreon. This week, we will be going over voting against your own interest, what that is and what that looks like. And our vocabulary words will be in political players. So it's the type of politicians. So first, we are going to be doing our lesson plan, which is going to be the First Amendment. You can look up the First Amendment at constitution.congress.gov, but at the Free Speech Center, mtsu.org, there are 7 things you need to know about the First Amendment. Congress shall, this is what it is. First, the First Amendment is Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof, or abridging the freedom of speech or of the press, or the rights of the people peaceably to assemble and to petition the government for a redress of grievances. Now, the 7 things you need to know about the First Amendment covers that 1, the freedom of speech, the 5 freedoms it protects: speech, press, assembly, and the right to petition the government. Together, these 5 guaranteed freedoms make the people of the United States and America the freest in the world. Before agreeing to accept the Constitution, the founders of our democratic republic demanded that these freedoms, be protected by an amendment to the original document, the First Amendment. There's no legal age you have to reach to exercise your First Amendment freedoms. They are guaranteed to you the day you are born. There's also no citizenship required for First Amendment protection. If you're in the United States, you have freedom of speech, religion, press, assembly, and petition. The First Amendment is neither left-wing or right-wing. It can be used to push for social and political change or to oppose change. The First Amendment is for everyone. The First Amendment protects us against government limits on our freedom of expression, but it doesn't prevent a private employer from setting its own rules. The First Amendment prevents government from requiring you to say something you don't want to, or keeping you from hearing or reading the words of others. Even if you never speak out for yourself, you have the right to receive information. Students have the right to pray in public schools as long as there's no disruption to school operations and no government employees, teachers, or coaches are involved. It's a private, personal matter, basically. So those are things that we all need to be aware of when we're talking about, because freedom of press is an issue right now. As we've gone over, that the corporations not only have bought out the politicians, but the corporations have bought out the press, most of it. And we've gone over that in our previous shows. So there is a discrepancy in this freedom that we have, because the freedom is to get actual, legitimate, factual information. And like I'd said before, remember about the political arena? If we know that the referee's pockets are greased, then the game is rigged. And that's basically the freedom of press. And the issue about freedom of speech is that there's so much hate speech going on, especially on public platforms, that a lot of people feel they have the right to invoke violence with their speech and with their rhetoric, but actually there are consequences to the things that you say. So we're going to cover that, okay? Please stay with me. We have to learn these things. Okay. At thefreedomforuminstitute.org, what words make up a true threat? Well, that depends. By Jean Polisinski. I'm sorry. I said it right though. Polisinski. Okay. Speech. Okay. They go over a few things, but I definitely wanted to go over the speech in the press because it's an issue going on today. So, speech. True threat. The First Amendment's protection for free speech covers most of what we say, whether it's impolite, insulting, biased, or uplifting, even commentary or forcefully expressed opinions that most of us would find repulsive or repugnant. So you can say you're disgusted, you can say that you hate something or somebody. You have the right to almost say whatever you want to say, and I'll explain. But one area not protected as free speech is called a true threat. Words that cause a person to fear for their safety or life. Cited cases from 2015 to 2020 about what a true threat would be defined as. The justices did offer this definition. True threats are those statements where the speaker means to communicate a serious expression of an intent to commit an act of unlawful violence to a particular individual or group. Bottom line, in the United States, the First Amendment certainly protects your right to speak, but there's no absolute protection from the effects of what you say, particularly when those words may put a specific person in fear of injury or death. Okay? So I think a lot of people always say you can't yell fire in a theater because it'll cause a stampede. That's actually kind of similar when you say cause a stampede. If you look at January 6th riots, that was a stampede. They stampeded. There was a stampede in the Capitol, and they almost took over our democracy. So, and there was a lot of words and influences that government officials and organizations were using all over hate mongering and with misinformation. And that misinformation actually led to a riot. So those words that were said, everyone who invoked that violence should be held accountable. Okay, going back. Press. At dictionary.com, our liberty depends on freedom of the press, and that cannot be limited without being lost. That is a quote by Thomas Jefferson. Yes, I'm sorry, that was a quote by Thomas Jefferson. But at dictionary.com, it says press is the right to publish newspapers, magazines, and other printed matter without governmental restriction, and subject only to the laws of libel, obscenity, sedition, etc. In general, freedom of the press means that news outlets can print or broadcast almost anything they want as long as they do not break any laws. The simplest case is illegal, such as treasonous content and child pornography, which is not protected by the Constitution. So you can understand that freedom of press can also give you information and publish any matter without government restriction, unless it breaks the laws in those similar ways, or those ways exactly. So there are, with all of our amendments except for the second, there are rules and regulations that keep us protected, because as we are supposed to be allowed to do and say whatever we want, our behaviors and our choices and our words have an impact and influence on the people around us. So that's something that we should all be aware of. Now, for political players, and this is where our vocabulary words come in. Okay. If you go to Refining the Ideological Spectrum, it's a PDF at comacschool.org. It's 4 pages, and it will explain to you what the political positions are based off of. And there you can get an idea of where you stand. And that is basically the idea of understanding, of me giving you the information, is that we all, everything is not black and white. It's very much gray. And on this spectrum, all of us might agree on some things, but there's some things we still might disagree on, and that's okay. So the first one I'm going over, in identifying the political positions of individuals and organizations, the first one will be radical, which means individual freedom is an absolute. The goal justifies the means. Political ideals must not be compromised, and belief in the economic system of socialism. A liberal believes in the reform by moderate means, expects the best of men, expanded role of government, of federal government in solving social problems. A conservative believes in content with the present system, and that men need enlightened control, and the fewer government programs, the better. And a reactionary believes that traditional authority must be maintained and all laws must be observed. Political ideals must not be compromised, and communism is the root of many problems. So I do feel that it's important for us not only to take a look and see where we might fall on that spectrum, but also when it comes to our media, when it comes to the actions of political players, Republican, Democratic, progressive, all of them alike. And you can really get an understanding of who they really are, and then compare it to what they say they are. So going on to the next one is, yes. Are you a conservative or liberal? It's a PDF at wp.lps.org, Liberals versus Conservatives. And it's a 3-page, it's actually very short. Yeah, I actually kind of like that. It's actually only 3 pages, and it gives you the issues with liberals versus conservatives so that you can decide where you are on each of these perspectives, and then you'll have a better understanding of where you are, who you are. So the general belief for conservatives is in personal responsibility, limited government, free markets, individual liberty, traditional American values, and a strong national defense. Also, they believe the role of government should be to provide people the freedom necessary to pursue their own goals. Conservative policies generally emphasize empowerment of the individual to solve problems. This is that pull yourself up by the bootstraps mentality. Conservatives are often referred to as being on the right when put in a political spectrum. Republicans are often viewed as more conservative, but there are conservative Democrats, and there are Democrats who say they're Democrat, but they're actually Republican. So those are 2 different things. A conservative Democrat is one thing, and a Democrat, a Republican in Democrats' clothing is another, okay? And something that growing up, okay, and learning about the Republican and the Democratic parties and beliefs, I still do respect these fundamental values and general beliefs of the Republican Party. The situation is that they don't live up to these values, and they judge everybody off of things against these values. So I believe that, and I think we all know, like when it comes to dating, like just because it looks good on paper doesn't mean that's actually what it is. So yes, I've always grown up like believing that there is something to learn, and definitely something honorable and admirable and something you can respect out of conservative ideals. I find myself as a conservative woman myself a lot, in a lot of ways. But that's because I believe more in these ideals, but not necessarily in what the Republican Party holds up to today, what they value, what they represent, and that's for many years. So moving on to liberals. Liberals generally believe in governmental action to achieve equal opportunity and equality for all, and that it is the duty of the government to reduce community issues and to protect civil liberties and individual and human rights. They also believe the role of the government should be to guarantee that no one is in need. Liberal policies generally emphasize the need for the government to solve people's problems. Liberals are often referred to as being on the left when put into a political spectrum. Democrats are often viewed as liberal. Okay, again, vice versa. You can have liberal Republicans. You can have liberal Republicans, but that doesn't mean that they're necessarily leaning on the liberal side of this whole spectrum. That's where there's always that gray area. So they might have real conservative values and lean on liberal sides of these. A lot of them are culture issues. So I think that's important for us to pay attention to that. Each political player still has a different resume. Okay? So that's the conservatives and the liberals. Now, if you go to that liberals versus conservatives, the issues that will separate you from the two are economy, environment, gun control, healthcare, welfare, immigration, religion, same-sex marriage, taxes, and the war on terrorism. Okay, so how you feel in each of those categories, there is a liberal and a conservative perspective, and you can kind of see where you fit in, and maybe tally up your marks for each side. I don't know. Try to learn and see where you fit in, and then you'll be able to see where other people fit in as well. Now, at theatlantic.com, there's an article by Molly Ball. Moderates, who are they and what do they want? And it refers to a poll by Peter Brodnitz and at Benson Strategy Group called State of Center. And to summarize his research and his poll, he said moderates, according to the poll, are tuned out or ill-informed, but they tend to see both sides of the complex issues. So basically, the reason why they're called moderate is because they're just in the middle. And there's not really much effort made for them. They don't swing either way, and their efforts aren't swinging either way because it's just not worth the debate, I guess. Yes. And like I said before, there can be moderates in the Republican side, and there can be moderates in the Democratic side, as well as radicals and reactionaries. But society, radical. I was going to say society usually shuns that behavior, but the radicals would be the January 6th riots. Those people in jail, they're saying those people have already been arrested and convicted for treason. And there's Republicans still saying that we should release them. Release who? People who committed treason and try to make Trump a dictator? Come on now, you guys. Yes. So you guys need to know those things about that. Okay. So moving on. Hello. It is time. I wanted to cover, because I've been talking about it forever, about going over voting against your own interest. And I am keeping things like nice and sweet today because it's a lot of information. It's a lot of vocabularies and different descriptions of the same thing, right? So, yes, but we are going to cover voting against your own interest, okay? So at the University of California, Riverside, at newsucr.edu, there's an article there by J.D. Warren, and he wrote, "Why Some People Vote Against Their Own Beliefs." And they did a study, of course, and I will tell you about it now. It says it means candidates, basically and so yes, his article is called "Why Some People Vote Against Their Own Beliefs," but I am trying to answer for you, what is voting against your own belief? You know what I'm saying? What is it? It means candidates who employ tactics such as fear and attaching patriotism to certain concepts can persuade people to vote for candidates who are in opposition for their social beliefs. This was Diogo Ferrari, a professor of political science at UC Riverside. He wrote in his recently published paper, Education, Belief Structures, Support of Welfare Policies, and Vote, published in the Journal of Education and Society. Ferrari's new research qualifies that the argument asserting formal education and can prevent this misalignment, okay, of people using things as fear, or I think it's the number 2 thing that causes reaction, disgust, and patriotism, attaching patriot. If you don't think what I think, you're not a patriot. If you don't behave a certain way, you're not a patriot. And attaching that to saying you have to vote for me, when the other candidate might have all the things that you need. Remember, we were talking about those bread and butter issues? There might be a really good candidate, even like, say you're a Democrat and somebody on the Republican Party. It's really hard for me to believe this, but I'm just giving an example. Okay, say you're a Democrat or an independent, and there's a Republican who's really about their business. You need to be able to see what they're really about, and if that person's voting for your interests or against your interests. And people in your own party, happens all the time, like with Kristen Sinema. She came in saying that she was a progressive, which is under the Democratic branch. You remember how we went over that? I cannot stand that lady. I can't stand her. Because I have family in Arizona, and the way that she did her little twirl and put down the rate, increasing the minimum wage, when she campaigned in doing those things, on a lot of things. And then what did she do for a couple years? She sold herself out to the Republican Party, pretending to be a Democrat. And now that everybody hates her for everything that she's done against what she said she was going to do, recent news, like today or yesterday, is that she's going to the Republican Party where she originally was from. So that is something that we should have not realized when she was voting against her own interests a couple years ago, or going back to Arizona to get a foot pedicure at a spa when she was supposed to be voting for us in Congress. So, yes, you guys need to pay attention to people in your own party that are not working or voting in your interests, because you cannot vote for them again. You really have to protest and contest those people. Okay. Thank you. I'm like, oof, I cannot stand that lady. And we're going to go over her too. We're going to go over a couple people I can't stand, but we got to get this through, okay? Now, oh, and exactly here it is. That could mean aligning. Okay, so this is from J.D. Warren, that this could also mean aligning party politics, like I said, with patriotism, religion, or the promise of eliminating political corruption, right? Drain the swamp. Remember when Trump, when Trump said, drain the swamp? And then when he came into office, he put the worst people in every single position. And his cabinet was never filled everybody was still like on standby trying to get approval. So he didn't even have everybody in position. And the people he had in position were terrible. Remember Betsy DeVos under education? Come on now. Or Ben Carson, who was under like urban issues. It was bad. He was terrible. He filled the swamp. He refilled the swamp. Okay. And the idea is to deviate people's attention from the things they care about and focus on their attitudes on other areas, Ferrari said. A candidate can emphasize anti-illegal immigration policies or economic nationalism or anti-political elite positions. Okay? A lot of times they threaten people about raising taxes. They're never talking about your taxes. So they get you to vote to not raise their taxes, and then you wind up compensating that with your taxes. It's not smart. So I'm like, okay. Now, I'm giving an example with this article by Anna Kasparian from the Young Turks. I absolutely love and adore her. And she wrote an article called My Fellow Progressives, We Need to Stop Gaslighting on Crime. And she was, the article is generally about how people in our communities, people in media, just brush it off and really try to tell you that crime is not a big deal. But the facts and the stats say that it is. And what I love about her article is, and it's on Newsweek. Yes, Anna Kasparian's article is on Newsweek. So she points out, cities like Philadelphia, New York, and Los Angeles broke annual homicide records, and there's been an uptick in other violent crimes like armed robbery and aggravated assault. It's no wonder that 61% of voters, including 8 in 10 Black voters, told the Pew Research Center that violent crime is very important to their midterm votes. Yet, all they get from Democrats and progressives is gaslighting, because Anna's about to keep it 100 with you, okay? Here she goes. In an interview on MSNBC last week, New York Governor Kathy Hochul brushed off concerns about public safety as nothing more than a conservative conspiracy to brainwash Americans into thinking they're less safe. That is not true, okay? That is very not true. And this is another part. She says right there is that there's an uptick in violent crimes, especially in major cities. I'm hearing that Chicago's gotten worse. So right there, she's comparing the fact that Black Americans in particular want more protection and recognize that crime is an issue in their communities. Yet on the TV, they're saying there is no issue. So also, going back to defund the police, which was a misconstrued motto. It was not a good slogan because it automatically turned people off at the idea that defunding the police would be less police. That's not the case. Defunding the police actually would have been more for the police department because it would have been increasing police services. So let me tell you what Anna was saying about that whole get down. Okay, take the polling from last year's Defund the Police ballot measure in Minneapolis, which proposed replacing their troubled police department with a new Department of Public Safety. The proposal sought a comprehensive health approach to public safety that would dispatch mental health workers to certain emergency calls while also investing more resources into crime prevention and removing the city's mandated minimum number of deputies based on the city's population. With 99% of the precincts reporting, 56% of voters rejected the proposal, including a resounding 78% of Black voters. And this despite the fact that the measure's supporters outspent their opponents by $3 million. Okay? So defund the police outspent the opponent opponent measure by $3 million, and could still not get people to realize that it was increasing social services and programs in the police departments or in the police system. It was not like decreasing police like that. The outcome was far from surprising. A recent survey by the Kaiser Family Foundation and the GRIO found that only 17% of Black voters support decreasing funding for police departments in their area. Nearly double that number of Black voters, 34%, said they would actually like to see police funding increase, but most wanted to keep the police funding the same. So I think the way that things got astray was everybody ran and supported and put bad information out there about what defund the police actually meant. And it was actually kind of what we wanted, but with the wrong title, the wrong caption. So we never went into that room, right? We never went into that space. If anything, we shut down that space. But what I think is super funny is that although we voted down defund the police, they have increased services like that, mental health services in counties following those policies and that philosophy and those new ideas of increasing mental health and social services in the police department. So they are implementing that, and it's too slow. Obviously, voting for it would have been better, but they have to change the slogan up because there's people who still vote against their own interest. And what I liked about this article is that it's people in general. It's people in general who vote. Well, not people in general. I don't know the number to say everybody, but it's just, everybody who votes, there's a percentage of us that don't know what we're voting for. We don't know why. Back in the day, it used to be like, oh, we vote for who's handsome, you know what I mean? And what had nothing to do about the policy, or voting for someone that might be able to persuade us because they look like us, or they might come from the same city as us, but never really pay attention to like what it is that they stand for. And where are they along those spectrums? Are they liberal? Are they conservative? And how you feel, do they align with that? So I am cutting this short because it's a whole lot, I feel. And I do want to say about the women and girls of Iran, there is some progress. I am very proud of them. I hope that revolution keeps going on. I hope that God keeps them safe. And I am very happy that Brittany Griner is home. I'm very happy for her. She is an American girl. She deserves to be home. She should have never been arrested. So it was never going to be a fair trade. And I really do believe that we need to value each other in our community and have compassion and empathy in the fact that if it was us, we wouldn't be able to deal with it. And if it was us, we would agree with the situation and that we would be happy that you were coming home too. So I hope everybody has a happy Friday. I hope everybody stays safe. Love, peace, and blessings.
EventStreams.us has all your audio and video production needs. Live stream, record, and edit any event with packages to fit every budget, large or small. Stream your wedding, birthday party, sporting event, concert, or performance. Start a podcast, talk show, or broadcast your church service every Sunday. If you could dream it, we can stream it. Again, that's EventStreams.us. streaming live content online since 2009.